Hi, my name is Snehal Desai. I'm going to go over the cystic fibrosis presentation here, just to give you an overview of some of the treatment mechanisms. You can see here, these are some of the topics that I'm going to talk about in this section of respiratory diseases. Um, Today, we'll talk about or go over the cystic fibrosis. Basically, like it's an inherited genetic disease where it's going to block um, ions from reaching to its destination. You can see here in this diagram, and it affects multiple parts of the body, um, like the lungs, the stomach, the GI tract, pancreas, reproductive systems. And you can see here in the picture how the differences between the normal airway and the defective airway. Um, and you can see how when chloride's going out of the water's following it, so the mucus is thin. In this case, when there's defective, it's not falling out of cell, it's staying within the cell. So the channel is kind of defective there. And so, and that's mainly because of the DNA. And so that's why the mucus remains thick and pathogens are trapped in the mucus and all of that. So these are some of the medications. Just take a look at this list. They're modulators, airway clearance, anti-infectives, pancreatic and nutritional support. Um, Sometimes there's 3 medication regimens, like the 2 correctors and the potentiator is used in a combination form. Um, and then you'll see how some airway clearance as well is used. And then with the pathogen stuck, some of these antibiotics are used to clear those pathogens. So that's also used in terms of reversing or treating the disease itself. And then pancreatic nutritional support. Sometimes enzymes are not able to get to where it needs to go from like the pancreas to like the small intestine. So creon is one example where it's going to uh, bypass that blocked flow of those enzymes from the pancreas and supply the missing enzymes to correct the digestion too. And there's some fat soluble vitamins here too. And take a look here. Some of these potentiators, you can see how it's correcting the function of the CFTR channels on the cell surface. Then you have the correctors here. They are mostly involved with the internal part of the cell here. And you can see how it's kind of, the lumocaftor is one example where it's kind of correcting or improving the processing and delivery of the functional CFTR protein to the cell surface. So that's going to enhance or improve the ion transport. And then the next generation correctors, or the other correctors here in the bottom are usually things that's going to correct more of the genetic programming of that cell. So it's going to fix the broken genes, or promote the read-through of premature termination coders of codons in the CFTR mRNA. So it kind of does a process there to correct the gene itself, so that the rest of the process within the cell works normally. And these cells that I'm talking about are actually epithelial cells that are lined up on the or in these lungs, the pancreas, or you have these cells. And what happens is whenever these um, ions are not transported out of these cells to thin the mucus just continues building up and then clogging the um, uh, transport materials from one part of the body to another. So it's very important to know how cystic fibrosis is affected. So Dornase alpha is another medication. Uh, it is one of those that can affect um, mainly like the internal process. So you can see here how like an infection is inside like the mucus and all, and you can see how some of the white blood cells are dying because of the chronic infections there. So what happens with the DNA? It actually gets stuck within the mucus, and mucus becomes thicker, and prevents the enzymes from getting to where it needs to. So it's kind of like doing all of that. So the Dornase alpha is going to break that DNA apart, and then thin the mucus overall. That's pretty much the idea here. Um, and then the viscosity drops, and then it becomes less sticky. And then the Creon mechanism, this is a very simple one as well. Normally, there's some digestive enzymes that's released by the pancreas and goes to the small intestine to break down the food and digest materials and proteins, and then fats and as well, and sugars. So these enzymes, if they're not, and because of the thickening of that mucus, it's not able to get to that small intestine and do the work and breaking down all of these materials. So in order to solve this, Creon is used to bypass all of that mucus and go straight to the target into a small intestine, so it can kind of supply the missing enzymes needed to break down triglycerides into fatty acid, or amylase breaking starch into simple sugars, or protease breaking proteins into amino acids and peptides. And that's pretty much it in this presentation.